is a scene, about halfway through Ingmar Bergman's The Seventh Seal, that I think about more than I'd like to admit. The night, Antonius Block is sitting with a young family, sharing a simple meal of wild strawberries and fresh milk. For a moment, the plague, the existential dread, the game with death, it all fades away. He says, "I shall carry this memory between my hands as carefully as a bowl of fresh milk." And it strikes me, this man, who is literally playing chess with death for his soul, finds his most profound moments of peace not in a grand answer, but in a simple, fleeting experience. And I have to ask myself, why is that so hard for me? Welcome everyone. Today, we're talking about The Seventh Seal, but we're not just going to analyze its cinematic techniques or its place in film history. Let's talk about the unbearable weight of finding meaning, the crisis of faith that isn't necessarily about God, but about everything, and how Bergman's masterpiece is both a diagnosis of that anxiety and a potential quiet cure. There's a certain way that comes with pressing play on this, but I'm happy to report that the greatest surprise of this 1957 film is not in its profound existential dread, but its vibrant, often rarely humorous humanity. This is not a dry philosophical treatise. It is a living, breathing, and deeply personal meditation on life in the face of death. If you're anything like me, which I hope not because that would have been just so fucking miserable, you've probably spent a lot of time in your own head, playing a high-stakes game of chess, or in my case, playing video games. Maybe your death isn't a pale man in a cloak, but it's the relentless pressure to mean something, to have a purpose, a legacy, a validated existence, to be able to point out to your life and say, yes, that mattered. My struggle, my blockness, no pun intended, has always been this. I am so desperate for the final, objective proof that my life has meaning, that I often forget to actually live it. I put immense pressure on every creative project, every relationship, every life decision to bear the cosmic weight of justifying my existence, and it's exhausting. And this is precisely where Antonius Block begins his journey. So let's break down his game and see what it can teach us about ours. The plot is deceptively simple. Returning from the Crusades to a plague-ravaged Sweden, the disillusioned knight, Antonius Block, encounters death.
Vem är du?
Jag är döden.
Personified as a pale, black-cloaked figure, not ready to succumb, Block challenges death to a game of chess, betting his life on the outcome. But here's the crucial part we often miss. His real goal is not merely to prolong his life, but to use the borrowed time to find one single piece of evidence for God's existence, a sign that life has meaning beyond the silent, indifferent void he perceives. As Block and his wonderfully cynical squire Johns, who is actually a pretty cool guy. Could be worse.
Farväl min flicka. Jag kunde ha våldtagit dig. Och så medan jag är trött på den sortens kärlek. Det blir lite torrt i längden.
Fuck. Anyway, they travel across the landscape and they meet a cast of characters who each represents a different response to the horror and meaninglessness of their world. First, as we mentioned, is Johns. He is the pragmatic nihilist. He sees the world as a brutal, absurd joke.
Vem tar hand om det där barnet? Är det änglarna eller Gud eller Satan eller bara tomheten? Tomheten, Herre?
There is no God, no meaning, so we might as well be honest about our cruelty and find solace in our own intelligence and wit. Gunnar Bjorkstrand nearly seals the film as Johns, delivering his nihilistic observation with a weary, intelligent charm that makes him the most relatable character. He's the voice in my head that says, nothing matters anyway, so why are you trying so hard? Then, there's the extreme religious fervor of the flagellants. This is the flip side of Block's doubt, a blind, fearful faith that seeks to appease a vengeful God through self-punishment. It's the desperation of needing to believe so badly that you'll embrace any form of certainty, even a terrifying one. And then, there's Joff and Mia, the traveling actors. They possess a simple, intuitive faith. It's not based on theological arguments, but on love, arts, and their connection to the natural world. Joff sees visions. Mia offers kindness and strawberries. They don't search for meaning, they embody it through their living. The warmth brought by B.B. Anderson as Mia and Niels Pope as Joff is the film's emotional anchor. Their performances are so natural and full of light that we understand exactly what Block is fighting to protect. Entrapped in the middle is Block. He's too intelligent for Joff's simple faith, too compassionate for John's cynicism, and too honest for the historical dogma of the flagellants. He is, in many ways, the archetype of the modern overthinker, and his central conflict is laid bare in one of the most powerful scenes in cinema history. Block enters a church, seeking a confession. Unbeknownst to him, the priest listening from the other side of the screen is death, and in this space, with the ultimate listener, Block pours out his soul. This is it. This is the core of the struggle. He says, I want knowledge, not faith, not suppositions, but knowledge. I want God to stretch out his hand toward me, reveal himself, and speak to me. He is desperately in need of an assurance that there will be something after this life, that everything he believes and has done was all for naught, while also not rejecting the idea of God is just absolutely compelling. This is exactly how I feel, and maybe you have too, that desperate aching need for a sign, for the universe to just give you a clear and ambiguous signal that you're on the right path, that your suffering has a point, that your life matters in the grand scheme. We pressure our careers, our arts, our relationships to be that sign. We treat living as a problem to be solved, and we demand a solution. Block is playing chess with death, but he's really trying to solve the puzzle of existence, and it's making him a prisoner of his dreams. And then, the miracle happens. It's not a heavenly vision, it's not a voice from the sky, it's a bowl of strawberries. Block, Johns, and the others sit with Joff and Mia. They eat, they drink, they talk, and for this brief, perfect moment, Block is present. This is the film's thesis statement. Meaning is not an abstract concept to be discovered through intellectual pursuit. It is a tangible experience to be held carefully in the moment. It is found in connection, in sensory pleasure, in simple human kindness. Mia offers him the milk, and in doing so, she offers him a kind of salvation that his 10 years of crusading never could. Bergman isn't saying that faith or the search for meaning is worthless. He's showing us that we're looking for it in the wrong place. We're staring at the sky, demanding answers, while the answers are right here, in the hands of the people around us, in the taste of food, in the act of creation. My struggle, my pressure to find meaning, is just my own way of ignoring the meaning that is already being offered to me, moment by moment. The game, of course, must end. Block loses the chess match. He cannot cheat death. But in his final moves, after having experienced a moment of pure grace with Mia and Joff, he deliberately knocks over the chess pieces to divert death after the latter have threatened the family earlier in the film.
Du följer gycklarparet genom skogen i natt. De där som heter Joff och Mia. Och har en liten son.
The act is charged with new meaning. It's no longer about just saving his own life, but about protecting the life he has learned to value. Block finally understands the game, and he chooses to lose it on his own terms, using his adversary's focus against him to achieve his one meaningful deed. And this meaningful deed is not a grand, world-changing act. It's a quiet, compassionate choice to protect the very thing that gave him peace, the simple, ongoing stream of life. He accepts his own mortality, but ensures that the embodiment of meaning, the family, the love, the art continues. The famous final shot, the dance macabre or the dance of death, is often remembered as bleak. But look at what Bergman shows us next. We cut to Joff and Mia, alive, carrying on. The knight's quest was not in vain. He found what he was looking for, not as a philosophical answer, but as a motivation for a final human act. He found something worth saving. So what does this old film say to my crisis? To my pressure to find meaning? It tells me that the game is rigged. You cannot win the chess match against the inevitable. You cannot force the universe to give you a satisfactory answer. The search for an absolute intellectual certainty is a form of imprisonment. There is no point in searching for it, as we all have to go there eventually, and if we do, there is no coming back. The way out, Bergman suggests, is not to stop playing, but to change what the game is about. The meaning of your life isn't a secret to be uncovered. It's a choice to be made, over and over again. It's in the work you do, not for legacy, but for the joy of doing it. It's in the love you give and receive. It's in holding a simple moment as carefully as a bowl of fresh milk. From a filmmaking perspective, The Seventh Seal is a masterclass in visual storytelling. Cinematographer Gunnar Fisher paints the world in a high contrast black and white, creating a landscape that is both starkly realistic and dreamlike. The famous opening shots of a rocky shore, under a sky both beautiful and threatening, set a tone for epic grandeur. The imagery is iconic for a reason. The knight and death seated at the chessboard, the frantic dance of the flagellants, the final silhouetted dance of death on the horizon. Bergman's direction is unflinching, forcing us to stare into the abyss alongside Block. Yet, he always cuts the solemnity with a sense of earthly humor or tender connection. The film's highlight for me is undoubtedly the interactions between Block and Death. Max von Sydow, who previously appeared in my Exorcist retrospective video, is in a role that could have been a monolithic statue of gloom. Instead, he gives Antonius Block a profound vulnerability. His face, gaunt and etched with torment, is a landscape of existential crisis.
Är det så grunt otänkbart att fatta Gud med sina sinnen? Varför ska han gömma sig?
And Beg Extrot's death might be the best depiction of the Grim Reaper in film media. He is not a cackling villain, but a calm, patient, and strangely polite functionary.
Du fick svart.
Det passar ju bäst så. Inte sant?
Which makes him all the more terrifying. Bergman gives us a death that is not something we can run from, but something we must, like Block, sit down and converse with. He is the final, logical conclusion to a universe without inherent meaning. By making death a character, an intelligent presence, and strangely relatable one, Bergman forced the audiences to confront their own mortality not with a scream, but with a thoughtful, silent stare across the chessboard. And an intimate bond is formed between the knight and his executioner. Death is not just Block's enemy, he's his most consistent and honest companion in a world full of plague, hypocrisy, and fear. Death is the only character who engages with Block on his own intellectual terms. He is the mirror that refuses to flatter, the truth-teller who cannot be dismissed. There's a perverse camaraderie in their game. Block is not just screaming into a void, he's conversing with it. To wrap this thing up, The Seventh Seal isn't a film about the silence of God, it's a film about learning to listen to the world and the people right in front of you. In a world that often feels like it's teetering on the brink, that might be the most meaningful lesson of all. As the saying goes, life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. And with that being said, I think I'll see you guys around.